Look at you, luxurious individual. Look at you. It's like a chicken of the woods or a turkey tail. It's just really old, I think. And there's even the older one, oldest of the bunch, because then there's one right in the middle. Oh yeah, and there's one over there. Look at this one on top. I'm not supposed to be going off, but tell no one. Look at, is that a rock actually? I think that's actually a rock, isn't it? No, it's not. That is actually, yeah. It's actually deteriorating fungi. That's actually really cool. You think at this point there'd be like you know, slugs or snails or something around it, but nope. Including with this weather. I mean, that is really well disguised as like a rock. That's actually really cool. Put it right back where I found it. Man, it is just fungi galore out here today. I mean, you know, winter and spring, even through early summer in the Northwest is always the best time for mushroom picking. The rest of the fungi stuff, but oh. Look at it moving. You see that? It's not just because of the rain. It actually fucking was like vibing. It was dancing there for a minute on its own. It's communicating something. That is neat as hell. It's kind of semi-translucent because you can still see it's ribbing through the sides and the top. Just a glorious little mouse umbrella specimen. Look at this little guy. He's trying to propagate himself. Is this a rock or is this one of those fungi too? That is a rock, okay. I had to ask. Look at these little fungi. I can't tell the usual button mushrooms and it's just growing a little funky or... Oh, are those like coral-like ones? Are those the oyster mushrooms? Is that what I was thinking? I think maybe. Somehow this one went and did that to itself. It got splayed. Look at this. That's unusual, isn't it? Yeah, it got splayed. Huh. That is so interesting. I doubt it did it to itself, but perfectly down the middle, but look how conical it is. Like, this is like fairytale, you know, kind of like a fly amanita. And it's that kind of, they kind of scallop themselves, those deer mushrooms do when they get old. The drainage system hasn't worked super well, because, sure it's right here, but, oops. Still, it's beautiful. See, as usual with human engineering, for like flood controls and erosion control, see the stair steps with the logs that they place? Clearly this is the main channel, or at least it was supposed to be, in the human engineering concept, right? Like, stair step, stair step, stair step. All the way up there, you can see at the top, and you can see how the channel is going around. And so this is technically, this whole thing here is technically an island, a pseudo island, because they tried to do the erosion and flood control, and as usual for human intervention, it always fucking fails. This is why you just let nature do what it wants to do. So this is supposed to be a nature park, like you'd think they would want to maintain that, but nope. And so you notice how nature still does what it wants, because even there, see that? It worked more like a dam, and so, but you see how it just did its own thing. Carved its own path through here, and then, and even through there actually, and then around, and it's still kind of doing that. This is why the human method is always the worst one, and it's always the dumbest one you can do. I mean, it's even kind of coming up and welling from here, and then pooling, and then going down, so no matter how much you try to control, you'll never will be able to succeed. Nature is going to absolutely make you read cards and weep. what they look like when they start to disintegrate. Again, I swear these are oyster mushrooms, if I recall correctly, but I can't entirely remember. Look at them. Look how perfect they are. How just like balls. It's super neat. Neat little fungi. See how this one is still working, unlike the other one which broke? Because this is natural up until the path. And then it becomes, I mean, it was natural before, but they still put a little net there. And that's why this still works, because there's basically zero intervention from us. See the proof in the pudding? So I for some reason forgot to showcase that fallen tree. I can't tell if it fell recently or not, but neat nonetheless. You see just nothing but fog through there. So cool. Kind of like a fairy portal, whatever you want to call that back there in a way. Just a very rectangular one. That's super neat. There's the metro truck off to our right. Look at that. There's a little bit of sunlight peeking out through the clouds right now. It's still completely cloud covered, but it's just enough to lighten up that moss and old man's beard on that oak. Oh, on the oaks really. And that's just beautiful with the mist and the fog. Just look at that. Here's the metro truck again. They're coming, they reversed, they're coming back the other way. See? It's really misting right now. It's not pizzle, it's true mist. And it's just beautiful. I just barely hear it on the leaves and the needles, and the limbs and the grass. The main June, this place ought to be on fire with just all the greenery and everything, but especially the foxgloves, Indian paintbrush, and other native flower species. Yeah, May and June, especially June, I think actually that'll be peak. It's the truck again, as expected. I mean, it's always a bit of a bummer to me. Kind of ruins a little bit of the immersion. You know, it's that thing about cutting out almost all the understory consistently, because it's so unnatural to have no understory. Ground cover, understory, lower story, middle story, and obviously upper story is a full makeup of a forest. So this is as unnatural as it gets. In fact, you can actually tell by how these trees are growing and how small they are, actually, that this was replanted at some point in the last probably 40 years. I'd say probably 40, maybe 50 at most. It was replanted with these trees, and that's also why they're kind of in a grid a little bit, right? You can tell how almost gridded they are. It's because it's not a natural stand. But without the understory and the ground cover, deer have, and elk and stuff like that, other cervids, they don't really have a place to bed and sleep safely, especially when they have their young. Like, they could do it in here, but because it's right off a trail, I don't think they necessarily would up in there. So you're still gonna definitely see deer in here. It's dead silent the whole time, but not as many as you probably should. And in fact, I bet elk would probably return if all the way to the west in the coast range, they also restored the understory and the ground cover, because they'd have so much more vegetation to use as cover and defense, sleeping and feeding areas. Yeah, it would be a huge boon to the food supply, but instead, as you can tell, even Metro, in fact there's their truck there now, speaking of a deer, look at the devil. It's a mama. Oh, she just went behind the trees. There she is. See her? Right up by the truck. It's never really for her to bed either, right? That's the sad part about not having understory and ground cover. They don't really have anywhere to really truly feel safe in bed. So just imagine if it was all natural and it was all out back rather than metro, right? So you keep seeing like constantly cutting out the understory, and it guarantees because of, they're gonna claim it's because of fire hazard mitigation or whatever, but it's so incredibly unnatural, it's ridiculous. So imagine if they didn't keep doing this and keep thinning out trees and stuff. Better just be as natural as possible. The amount of deer, but also elk. They probably get a return of elk, giving it a shot again, you know. She might have been the one who was blowing. That's the word. That's the term. I knew it. I knew it. Just wasn't remembering it earlier. I said barking, blowing. It's almost always does that blow. Bucks do it too, but the mamas are usually the ones who blow. At first, as that truck was there, I had to backtrack and make sure it was an actual real deer, because I thought maybe Metro was putting up one of those semi-realistic looking decoys, just in case, like, they're preparing for the potential chance for poachers to pop in here at some point. It's always so sad to me to see the intentional destruction of the tree ecosystems. They even do it in nature parks, and it's just so stupid. And the dumbest thing is, you know full and well, right? Like, you can't hold the claim that they do at the edge of the suburbs and everything, which is one of the major reasons we cut out the understory and the ground covers, because of teenagers basically getting it on. I can't claim that, because there might be someone that will come all the way out here to do that, but odds are most of them wouldn't do that anyway. Even if it was their only opportunity to be able to get it on or whatever. Or of course do drugs, or homeless, or the most frequent other claims that are always made, so. Can't make those claims. The only thing I can think of is it's supposed to be fire mitigation. But even then, it's such a dumb, stupid excuse. It's ridiculous. At least here, there's some some ground cover and a tiny bit of understory once we're getting further into the park towards the west. So that's huge. That's good. Not cutting all of it out, but still, you should be doing better. I mean, I suppose another reason why they might be doing it is because of all the Himalayan Blackberries. I mean, that's what those brambles and those canes are. Himalayan Blackberries. The issue is you can't just cut everything out and cut it back, because they're just going to take over even harder. And also we have a horrible case of invasive Scotch broom. And every time you disturb stuff, especially around here, it's just rampant. You have nothing but Scotch broom epidemics where it just takes over. If it's not the Himalayan blackberry, it's going to be that. And so you're just setting yourself up for failure unless you immediately seek to study and plant native plants and species, common or not anymore, or the type of species that you learn from because you observe them and you plant them, and see which ones might be able to mitigate and maybe even eventually stop the spread and encroachment of the damn Himalayan blackberries. And just by simply planting them, you now have a guarantee to where the Scotch broom is not going to want to invade that area or take it over, because it doesn't have the disturbed and open environment that it craves. If you do it right, you give the best possible chance to restore a native natural ecosystem by helping it in that way. Minimal interventionism, rewilding, or not rewilding, really restoration, because there is a key difference between simple wildland rewilding and, well, wildland restoration, which is always been my biggest dream career, seeing out to do wildland restoration. And the first thing I would do is I'd do everything I could to study and figure out how the hell to finally get a handle on, mitigate, and at least match Himalayan Blackberries, so then they can be held off and spread, at least for the most part, and then find out which native plants actually help not just stop their encroachment, slow it or stop it, but actually to completely permanently prevent it and actually knock them back, just by having the right native plant species there to knock those feckers back. Also, pro tip, make sure you bring like Kleenexes or toilet paper or paper towels or something, napkins with you when you hike this time of year, especially if you're not in, clothes that most people would be wearing this time of year. like me, full what people consider summer gear. This is just me every day of the year, because it's not actually that cold. It's actually quite nice. In my opinion, at least. But because of the big difference between my internal body temperature and the external temperature, ambient air temperature, and then me raising my body temperature by, well, exercising, hiking, my nose is just absolutely turned on like a damn spigot. It'll be worse once I get back in the car. You hear the creek? Look at that creek. Just over yonder. Sweet. I actually didn't think we were going to be going downhill. I thought this was going to be mostly uphill chicanes. I was extremely wrong. I'm going to shut up for the rest of this trip. This hike, so I can hopefully encounter at least some durskies. Maybe some other critters. God, that's so pretty. Isn't that just beautiful? Oh my goodness. It's just fucking gorgeous.